A very good morning, everyone. Director General of International Solar Alliance, Mr. Ashish Khanna, Director General of the Energy Research Institute, Mrs. Vibha Dhawan, Mr. Ferruccio Santeti, Latin America and the Caribbean Regional Director and Sustainable Finance Global Lead, Global Green Growth Institute. All distinguished people, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to this high-level session on Grid Interactive Building, the new frontiers of energy transition. It's my privilege to welcome you all on this session on scaling built environment efficiency and grid flexibility at COP30 in Belém. As we meet at this critical juncture, COP30's mandate is clear: accelerate the energy transition and build climate resilience. We turn our attention to an often overlooked climate frontier, our existing buildings and cities. Belem's setting on the Amazon underscores the urgency of preserving our natural capital, but the climate crisis also demands transforming our urban ecosystems. Globally, buildings consume roughly 40% of energy and emit about one-third of greenhouse gases. The climate clock is ticking. Each building we construct today or operate today locks in decades of emissions. We must rapidly transform our buildings from static energy sinks into dynamic assets for decarbonization. For India, this challenge is already central to our national vision. We have made bold strides in the energy transition and are being watched by the entire world. This year, India achieved 50% of its installed power capacity from non-fossil sources, 5 years ahead of our Paris 2030 target. And we now target 500 gigawatt of non-fossil capacity by 2030. COP30 President Andre Correa de Lago has praised India for embracing a transformative role in the global energy transition, saying India have embraced climate action in a very clear way and is driving down the cost of clean energy worldwide. These achievements underscore India's leadership and scale in expanding renewable energy. At the same time, we recognize that the built environment is the next frontier for our climate agenda. Our solar panels, our batteries, and our buildings must all work together and harder for the planet. It is also imperative to ensure that the vulnerable and underprivileged population and communities of Global South are protected from the impact of climate crisis. Today we shine a spotlight on the frontier grid interactive building environment. Historically, buildings have been passive consumers of power. Today, thanks to smart digital controls, rooftop solar, and storage, we have a paradigm shift. The International Energy Agency notes that such buildings can shift from energy-intensive consumers to low-carbon prosumers, able to produce, store, sell, and buy electricity, becoming active participants in the grid. In practice, this means every home, office, and factory can be a micro power plant and a source of flexibility. Smart thermostats, solar panels, batteries, and demand response technologies enable buildings to reduce demand, store renewable power, and even support the grid during peak times. This is a profound new role for our cities, one that maximizes efficiency, unlocks renewable energy, and strengthens resilience. To catalyze this transformation, India is establishing a Center of Excellence on Grid Interactive Buildings at IIT Delhi, which is the premier institute in the country. This Center of Excellence will unite academia, industry, and government to translate research into real-world actions. Alongside today's launch and the new ISA report on Building Integrated Photovoltaics, BIPV, we now have the knowledge and momentum to guide policy and investment. Our mission must be to turn vision into action, crafting the policies, projects, and partnerships that scale grid interactive building environment from pilots to the mainstream. As our session objective reminds us, we will focus on practical steps and ensure no community is left behind, creating clean energy jobs, making solutions affordable, and extending benefits to people everywhere, which is so central to the Global South agenda, which India so well highlighted during the G20 summit hosted by India in 2023. Under COP's 30 Energy Transition and Climate Resilience Agenda, we gather with a sense of urgency and shared purpose. We have with us government ministers, regulators, technical experts, and international partners from India and beyond to chart this path together. The question before us is not whether we should transform the built environment, but how fast and how collectively we can do this or we can achieve this. Let us use this moment to pledge bold action, leveraging smart grids, decentralized solar and storage, and collaborative innovation to make our buildings efficient, flexible, and resilient. Thank you very much, all of you, once again, and thanks for joining this important dialogue. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Upadhyay sir, for your insightful remarks. I think it is high time that buildings are considered as prosumers of energy rather than just consumers. And while there have been some initiatives in the past and also in the recent times, I'm sure this proposed Center of Excellence will go a long way in bringing awareness as well as concurrence on this topic. May I now invite Mr. Ashish Khanna, DG ISA, for his special remarks, please.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Solar Hub, the only place where 125 countries who are members of ISA sit together with youth, as I see a lot of you, and all stakeholders on how can solar, which has doubled in just last 2 years, can actually reach everyone. Today, we are here in Belem on a very important topic because International Solar Alliance will be launching a flagship report, BIPV in Action, Global Climate Case Study Compendium. As we gather in Amazon, one of the world's greatest climate stabilizers, we are reminded that the world will need to protect its forest, but also need to manage our cities. Why are cities important? Because cities consume more than 70% of world's electricity demand and generate nearly 2/3 of global emissions. This is also more of a Global South agenda because 70% of buildings in developing world by 2040 are yet to be constructed. And as a lot of developing worlds are constrained by land, having PV integrated within the buildings is one of the most important ways of getting energy security. And that is why ISA is focusing on building integrated photovoltaics called BIPV. ISA developed this compendium because real-world examples inspire real-world action. Across our 125 member countries, we saw a common challenge. Policymakers, architects, financiers, and developers all ask the same question. What does BIPV look like in practice, and how much does it cost? This report that we'll be releasing shortly answers that question. It brings together projects from different climate zones, and that is very important. Whether you are living in a humid tropical cities, cyclone-prone coastal regions, snow-laden countries, high ultraviolet desert environment, or dense Mediterranean urban centers. Each case demonstrates how design, policy, and technology come together to address specific climate and architectural needs. Whether that means corrosion-resistant materials for coastal areas, abrasion-resistant coatings for deserts, or high snow-led facades for colder regions. The goal of this compendium is simple. Show what is possible what is replicable, and what is scalable. I'm also proud that this publication includes powerful examples from Latin America, where we are today in COP. Let me give you two examples. In Brazil, the Germinair Institute in Sao Paulo shows how photovoltaics brise soleils can simultaneously reduce cooling demand, improve comfort, and generate clean energy. A model perfectly suited to Latin America's growing tropical cities. In Chile, the Nueva Cordoba building in Santiago demonstrates how modern architecture and solar facades can coexist beautifully, providing more than 190 million watt hours of annual clean energy generation right in the heart of a dense business district. These examples are more than case studies, they are blueprints. Blueprints that prove that BIPV is not some futuristic sci-fi concept. It is practical, scalable solution for real buildings, real people, and real climate technologies. To build on this foundation, we are not going to stop with this compendium. We are also developing a BIPV guidebook, a practical blueprint covering design principles, certification standards, and policy integration strategies for member countries. And because innovation must speak the language of the context, we are conducting stakeholder consultations across Bhutan, Liberia, Denmark, Sweden, Chile, Spain, Morocco, Japan, Mauritius, Singapore, Fiji, Australia, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, and Uganda. These dialogues will bring together architects, ministries, utilities, and financial institutions to ensure that the next generation of solar buildings is globally informed, yet locally grounded. What we are hearing from all these nations is remarkably consistent, that BIPV is not merely a design innovation, it is an industrial and climate security imperative, one that can localize manufacturing, create green jobs, and redefine energy self-reliance. We are also, therefore, going to launch a programmatic program on BIPV that will have three pillars. One, open new pathways for BIPV materials and manufacturing. Two, build capability across architects, regulators, builders, and financiers. And three, strengthen regional examples so that each successful project unlocks the next 10 and 100. Our vision, though all of this looks complex, is very simple. And this is what I tell my teams. Can you get BIPV technology and financing as close, if not lower, than solar rooftop? Because if we do that, then for a land-constrained developing world, this will ensure energy security. This would then lead to mainstream BIPV as a cornerstone of future urban development, where buildings, as Mr. Upadhyay very rightly said, are no longer just energy consumers, but active contributors to national energy security and local resilience. So I don't know how many of you are from different professions, but I want to say if you are an architect, engineer, researchers, utility, whose work fills this compendium, thank you. And be part, because we will need all of you to work together to get it done. Because what we want is, this is an invitation to imagine what our future build spaces will look like, an invitation to solarize the cities, and an invitation to build a world where every building helps power the next generation. With that, it's my pleasure to launch the ISA Case Study Compendium on BIPV in action. Together, let us make building and every building a partner in the energy transition. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khanna, for your remarks. And indeed, while a lot of people do appreciate that cities are proven centers of economic growth, there is not enough attention on their energy consumption and the need for energy transition, especially in the global south. I'm sure we'll hear more about it in the remarks of Dr. Dhawan. With this, may I request all the dignitaries on the dais to jointly launch the Center of Excellence on Grid Interactive Buildings. Sir, please.
ये पीछे आ जाएगा बस थोड़ा सा उधर so that this comes yes yes मैडम वो रिपोर्ट भी लॉन्च कर
May I request Dr. Tiwari from TERI to please come and take the proceedings of the report.
let's take a copy each let's launch this we can come together congratulations so much
Dr. Tiwari, would you like to come and maybe speak about the report a bit?
Good morning, dignitaries on the dais. I think DG ISA has already talked about this compendium, but I'll just give my short presentation on the report. Thank you everyone for taking the time and joining this thematic session. My presentation will introduce the BIPV in Action Global Climate Case Study Compendium developed by International Solar Alliance with the support from TERI, India, TUPSI, Switzerland, Tanapil, Switzerland, and Arkansas, Austria. The report demonstrates through real projects across various climatic zones that solar can be embedded directly into building skill. The presentation will talk about why BIPV is particularly relevant now for rapidly urbanizing economies and what the case study proves about climate resilience design. And third, what policy and incentive levers countries can use to mainstream it. So as Mr. Khanna has already told, we are having this urbanization problem, especially in global south, where in Asia and Africa will host around 70% of new urban construction. Almost 7 in 10 people will live in cities, and most of the growth will happen in global south. Building now one of the fastest growing electricity consumers. Around 60% of global electricity demand will come from the building. And the third is that cities, we simply don't have the barren land, and rooftop will not solve this particular problem. So because of we don't have enough land, and that is where BIPV comes in. It let us generate clean power on various surface. We are already building the facade. That is whether it is skylight, it is canopies or ventilated rooftop. That is shown in the figure at right. We can integrate the photovoltaic modules on the facade itself, and these areas can act as a generator of electricity at the same time. So the compendium is designed as a reference resource for government as well as city leaders. Each case study represent performance-based evidence, annual generation range, and indicative CO2 savings, so that authorities and financiers can judge technical fitness and reliability of the technology in their own environment conditions. There are total 13 global case studies spanning from institutional building, commercial building, industrial as well as the residential sector has been selected for this case study, and this case study provide verifiable benchmark for adoption and performance, showcasing BIPV versatility in real world application. So here is one particular example from Brazil that Mr. Khanna has already told. It represents in the compendium, and we have followed very simple approach, structural, highlighting the technical, policy and climate impact dimension in very clear way. In the left hand side, the project shows the snapshot of this project. What is the size, technology used, annual generation, and importantly, the CO2 emission avoided by these case study. And in the middle, we have highlighted the project innovation, enabling conditions, including any policy lever or incentives that made the project viable. For example, in this case study from the Brazil, it is the net metering and supporting building energy codes played the important role for viability of the project. Next slide, please. Now, this is another case study from Mumbai, a data center. Again, a very important case study for climatic zones in India, and this case study can be replicated in other zones as well. So the overall objective was to show what was done, what policy enabled it, and why it is important for scaling it in similar context. So with that objective, we have prepared this report. In this particular slide, we have summarized all the case studies, and in all, collectively, these projects generate something in the range of 50 to 500 megawatt of electricity annually at each site, offsetting something in the range of 1,000 tons of CO2, while meeting local building codes, and together they have found BIPV vital role in adoption equitable urban residence. Now, to replicate this thing and to accelerate BIPV globally, these are the 4 recommendations we have done. The first one is enable BIPV within nationally determined contribution and within building codes in each country. This will elevate the BIP within the emission pathways while aligning with existing regulation. The second is launch regional pilots. We need more pilots in each climatic zones. This will demonstrate climate-specific designs, financing models, and streamline permitting in these countries. The third recommendation is tailored BIPV code for facade, for roof, for shading devices, and already we are working with ISA to develop this particular guidebook, was already announced by Mr. Khanna. And finally, mandating requirement of real building certification for public projects to set market benchmarks. Together, these steps can achieve 10 to 20% urban envelope coverage by 2030, substantially reducing the CO2 emissions from the building and at the same time creating local jobs. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tiwari. I'm sure that compendiums like this would are the need of the hour, and they are the ones which will be the true blueprint of telling us where do we need to go and where we are at present. With this, may I now invite Mr. Kanagaraj Ganeshan, Technical Advisor to Electric Power Transmission Association, to give his presentation on grid interactive buildings, importance of the concept and this proposed center of excellence. Thank you.
Good morning, Excellencies, on the dais, colleagues and partners. So by the time the presentation comes through, I will just set the initial context. So as we accelerate to the clean energy transition, one truth is emerging quite clearly, that building is no longer just a consumer of electricity. It can be an active participant in the energy transition and decarbonization by generating, storing and pairing clean energy with the grid. Grid interactive building is the new frontier on the energy transition. A practical pathway to make our cities more resilient, self-reliant and affordable. So, across the global south, we face growing energy trilemma, mainly connected with reliability, affordability and sustainability of energy efficiency and grid attractiveness. Our cities are expanding faster than our infrastructure. Every new apartment, hospital, data center we add serves the electricity demand, and much of it is coming from cooling, and which peaks right when the grid is at its weakest point. So looking at the challenge of reliability in the world around. Good. This is good. Yeah. So in the world, we can see that nearly 666 million people in 2023 still lack stable electricity across the sub-Saharan Africa, Central and Southern Asia. In many regions of the global south, the outages can range between 6 to 8 hours during the peak summers. And this again does not guarantee the reliability of electricity to all the households. Adding to this, there are also extreme events like cyclones, floods and heat waves, which damages the transmission and distribution lines and then forces many of the plants to go offline. Okay. So next point is to look at the affordability. Even if the renewable energy asset expand within the electricity generation mix, seasonal patterns and the climate-driven extreme events continue to create system strains. Heat waves drives the cooling load peak during the summer period, but during the off season like monsoon and winter, the generation capacity again deteriorates. So in a way, it is very imperative to have the thermal or the fossil fuel based power plant to cater to the peak load. Looking at the sustainability part of it, we know that almost 78% of the greenhouse gas emission actually comes from the global energy sectors, and global south are rapidly scaling the renewable energy within their power system. However, the oversupply of the solar assets during the summer months, followed by weak generation during the monsoon months, again ensures that the fossil-based plant will be indispensable in the near future. As storage solutions like BESS and green hydrogen remain in their earlier deployment across the demand and the grid application, there is an urgency that the building and the grid should start interacting much more closely. How JIPE can become a kind of a solution in this regard? So JIPE integrates the solar and other scalable renewable energy, batteries, smart meters, digital controls to communicate with the grid. When the grid needs energy, they can supply it. When the demand peaks, they can reduce or shift the consumption. Instead of being just a passive user of the built environment become more prosumer. This means fewer blackouts, lower bills, smoother integration of renewable energy, all while empowering consumer to be part of the clean energy system. How this is well connected with the Global South. Global South is uniquely positioned to lead this transition. We can leapfrog directly to the new paradigm, one where solar power, buildings and digital technologies converges. Our nations have advantage that our building stock is quite new, abundant solar sunlight and also a great solar generation capacity. So it is very important that we build flexibility as well as resilience in our grid from start rather than basically retrofitting it later. To ensure that we have a very good way of implementing grid interactive buildings, there need to be a coordinated action among the stakeholders from government to set up good standards as well as smart codes and flexible pricing that will ensure that the grid interactiveness can take the mainstream. At the same time, the industry also needs to deploy technological solutions to improve or bring high efficiency on the distribution utilities, perform data analytics, and also to have control system that is suitable for managing the renewable energy as well as the storage solutions. There is a great work which has happened through International Energy Agency in the region, in the ASEAN region as well as in India. We were planning to launch this report during this session, but because of some final touches, like we are still holding it. So the IEA talks about these 6 enablers, how a country or a region performs in terms of grid interactive buildings. It looks at energy efficiency, decarbonization, smartness of the grid, resource efficient materials, resilience, as well as looking at the building to grid connectivity. So these are the 2 reports. The first report is from the ASEAN region, which has been already launched, which does the assessment as well as provides the story of successful case study in ASEAN region. Similar attempt is getting done in India, and we are hoping to soon launch this report in the near future. Towards the end, as we stand at the crossroad of this energy transition and development, buildings hold the key stake. They are where the people live, work and learn, and they can also be where the energy innovation begins. So let us ensure that every building has a partner for resilience, every rooftop a clean energy or resource, and every city a hub of flexible and reliable power. This is the transformation that we define our decade, and that's how we basically put forward this Center of Excellence in IIT Delhi, and we look forward to work on this enabling principle in the near future. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Ganeshan. I'm very sure that this concept of grid interactive building will also help, plug the gap in the schemes, ambitious schemes, I'll say, like One Sun, One World, One Grid, and also the Green Grid initiative of Government of UK. With this, may I request Shri GP Upadhyay, DG EPTA, to moderate the panel discussion on this theme, please.
ये बताओ. So we'll begin with Brian Motherway, no?
Message.
Samantha also has joined. Samantha also has joined. पता करो.
We'll begin the session with a very brief message of Dr. Brian Motherway from IEA.
Yeah.
It's just three of us. You can come here.
No, there are people on.
Honourable Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Director General of the International Solar Alliance, Director General of the Electric Power Transmission Association of India, esteemed panelists and distinguished participants, it is my privilege to join this event virtually. Our collaboration with India and its institutions has been instrumental in advancing work on key energy priorities, including through our collaboration now on efficient grid interactive buildings. We all know the importance of energy to our lives and to our societies, and its key role in addressing the challenge of climate change. 2 years ago at COP28, key energy goals were agreed, most specifically doubling energy efficiency progress and tripling renewable capacity. India played a key role in this, not least through its important leadership of G20 that year. And India has responded in terms of strengthening its own policies. However, at a global level, we are not on track, particularly for the energy efficiency target. This is important because according to IEA analysis, both efficiency and renewables are absolutely central to decarbonising our energy system, as well as making our energy systems more secure and resilient, enhancing competitiveness and reducing energy bills, and making sure everyone can benefit. Across both of these issues is electrification. We have now entered the age of electricity. Electricity demand is growing at twice the rate of energy demand as a whole, driven by growth in key sectors such as cooling, data centres, and the electrification of heat and transport. In parallel, we see increasing shares of variable renewable generation, along with the growth of distributed resources like demand response, energy storage, and electric vehicles. The grid is becoming more and more dynamic. Managing electricity systems amid these changes brings challenges, but also major opportunities. Smart technologies are advancing and opening up the prospect for more efficient and flexible management of building energy use. Efficient grid interactive buildings represent an emerging paradigm in building design and operation, combining high levels of energy efficiency with the ability to interact dynamically with the grid. Grid interactive buildings can bring many benefits. They mean reduced peak demand, improving reliability, and lowering costs and emissions. They can also mean lower energy bills through efficient operation and demand response participation, along with improved comfort and greater resilience during extreme weather conditions. These opportunities obviously raise important policy questions. What policies and programs do we need to support this, and what roles do governments, national and subnational, utilities, companies, and consumers play in this? These questions have been the basis of our work in India and the wider region and our collaboration with you all, where we see significant opportunities and strong leadership shaping up in promoting the adoption of grid interactive buildings. In our publication on India, which is planned for release soon, we will assess the potential and readiness of buildings to become efficient and grid interactive. The analysis will highlight how India's robust policy framework is well positioned to unlock opportunities to advance efficiency, decarbonisation, smart technologies and grid interaction, ultimately supporting the wider adoption of grid interactive buildings. India is in the position to become a global leader, reaping the benefits at home as well as sharing experience with others internationally. We congratulate the Government of India on its leadership in taking forward this initiative and look forward to continued collaboration on this important topic. Thank you to the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change, the Ministry of Power and the Electric Power Transmission Association for organising this event. Thank you.
Can we request Samantha to join online and
Yeah, I think Samantha is already here. So, ladies
Okay.
and gentlemen, it gives me a pleasure to welcome Ms. Samantha Stratton-Short, Head of Strategic Advisory and Support, Infrastructure and Project Management Group, UNOX, in this panel discussion. So, over to you, Upadhyay sir. Are we audible, Samantha? Can you hear us?
Samantha, we are not able to hear you, so we are just fixing the audio. Just give us a moment.
in the meantime, can I go to other panelists? Okay.
I said whatever you're comfortable.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll proceed with the Mr. Ferruccio, I would like to ask you a small thing and request you to explain this to the audience. The Global Green Growth Institute's Asia Low Carbon Buildings Transition, that is ALCBT, project is helping governments of India, Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam and to turn the building decarbonization potential into practice. So based on this project's experience, what key lessons or strategies do you think are most transferable or for maintaining grid interactive, low carbon building approaches in Asia's rapidly growing cities?
Thank you. Thank you for the invite to share this panel with all of you. It's a pleasure and an honor. As we've heard from other speakers, the building sectors accounts for more than 40% of energy consumption globally, 1/3 of greenhouse gas emissions. So this is an important and relevant conversation that we need to have. I would also say that beside the novelty and the importance of the technological innovation and intervention, it is also a narrative that is very well aligned with today's climate agenda. Is a narrative behind which both governments at the national and the subnational level can identify themselves, as well as members of the population, cities and communities. So also from a narrative perspective, I think this solution has very strong potential. We are indeed implementing a large-scale program across 5 countries in Asia called ALCBT, Asia Low Carbon Building Transition, which is very ambitious, and we are trying to materialize that ambition by leveraging some important strategies and lessons learned. One being the importance of supporting and working with developers and financial institutions to help them identify and manage a pipeline of possible interventions and projects. And we've done that by really institutionalizing building registry systems. So we have worked with beneficiary countries, with partners to build a registry of 5,000 buildings where these innovative solutions can be deployed with the objectives of lowering transaction costs, with the objective of facilitating the identification of possible sites and intervention. Number two, really focusing on the reduction of operational carbon. So really promoting the use of energy efficient cooling systems, which is often the largest user of energy and electricity within a building. And third, working at the level of promotion of energy service companies, ESCOs, right? Trying to shift this type of solution from being a capital expenditure to being a source of operational expenses, right, tied to performance and usage. We have also placed great emphasis on capacity building, training over 1,500 beneficiaries, not only project developers, but also project developers, right, involved in the development of residential infrastructure, working with governments, and maybe even more importantly, working with financial institutions. So helping lenders and investors understand how to assess the revenue generation capacity and the risk-reward profile of this type of interventions. And finally, a focus also at the policy level, right? In parallel, looking into building codes to explore how we can promote this type of solutions also from a policy lever.
Thank you very much for your very informative answer, and which throws light on what is going to happen and how to make it happen on the ground, especially in Asia and Southeast Asia. Now, financing for these things.
Can we just check once with Samantha whether her audio is working or not?
Yeah. Okay, please go ahead.
Samantha, we are not able to hear you. Can you check your audio, because here everything is okay?
Proceed. You hear me when I spoke?
Yes, now we can hear you. Great.
Yeah, we can hear you. Before we go to Samantha, just one quick question to Mr. Ferruccio. Financing remains a very key challenge for such, transformations. So, the leadership of GGGI has mobilized over $8 billion in green investments. And it remains a key challenge, as I said, for retrofits and smart infrastructure in emerging economies. So, which financial tools would you suggest, such as green bonds or blended finance, as the most catalytic for this transformation?
Thank you. And just to be brief, I think it's important to acknowledge that today's climate agenda is really largely funded through fixed income instruments. So the capital market and especially bonds play a key role in the financing of the climate agenda. So a lot of the focus of the Global Green Growth Institute has been in mobilizing capital market to close the NDC and SDG financing gap, working with sovereigns, quasi-sovereign and private sector financial institutions to raise capital from domestic and international capital markets, making sure that in these financing frameworks that we develop, energy efficiency measures and buildings, use of proceeds, interventions are integrated in there so that we can build the conditions for this type of solutions to be funded at the level of capital raising. And secondly, we look with a lot of interest, like I'm sure the rest of the international community and really the world, on the ESCO model, the energy service company model. India is a leader globally in ESCOs. It's a solution that in other parts of the world has struggled to pick up speed and pace. And we see there are two key bottlenecks, right? Number one being the costs, the upfront costs that ESCOs have to face in order to build a project portfolio, right? This is often a very risky stage where ESCOs must invest their own resources to identify opportunities and advance with project design. And really, these interventions don't become bankable, and ESCOs cannot really access commercial financing until they are able to finally sign an energy service agreement. So how can we de-risk that initial phase of the ESCO model? And we've done that by working with national guarantee funds. We've done that by working with international partners, most recently with the Mitigation Action Facility, MAF, to build project preparation facilities that can provide this initial concessional financing so that ESCOs don't have to invest their own liquidity in order to build that pipeline and identify really viable opportunities. I'll end it here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for, again, a very informative and response which lays the pathway for the future. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Samantha Stratton from UNOPS headquarters, Copenhagen. She is head of strategic initiatives, infrastructure and project management. And I welcome you, Samantha, for joining us online. And I would request you. I would request you to share UNOPS experiences and perspectives on how innovative building grid integration can support inclusive and equitable transitions. So, Samantha, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Excellencies, fellow panelists, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, for inviting UNOPS to this session. It's a privilege to be here to discuss how we turn our shared ideas into action. And your question is one that is very important to UNOPS. I'll try to get straight to the point because I know we don't have much time. We can see that new clean energy economy is emerging, contributing to GDP growth, creating jobs, and helping to decouple economic growth from emissions. But now the challenge is, how do we extend this success to everyone? How do we scale up? How do we speed up? And this is where UNOPS comes in terms of bridging the implementation gap while ensuring a just energy transition. And to do that, we focus on 3 key actions. So the first one is prioritizing stronger upstream project preparation. So to turn ideas into actions, we need to prioritize this stronger project preparation. There are many brilliant projects that fail to attract investment because they're not bankable. There's a gap between a good idea and a financially viable project proposal. So to do this, we need quality project preparation, de-risking. We must invest more in this upstream work, robust feasibility studies, credible environment and social impact assessments, solid legal and financial structuring. To give you some ideas of where UNOPS has experience, in Indonesia, we are demonstrating stronger project preparation by working inside the machinery of project delivery through the Southeast Asia Energy Transition Partnership, otherwise known as ETP. And we're working directly with the Ministry of Energy and the National Electricity Utility. Our specific goal is to co-develop a pipeline for utility scale. And to support this ambition, UNOPS provided technical assistance to design the upgrade of the Java Bali Control Center. This upgrade enables the grid to confidently integrate variable renewable energy. And the progress is tangible. The PLN Nusantara Power, the National Electricity Utility, has committed to a 51% equity stake in the first wind project, transforming a concept into an investable reality. So the second action is strengthening the enabling environment and building local capacity. We need this to ensure inclusion as we scale these solutions. Ultimately, sustainable infrastructure and a just energy transition rely on localization. We must ensure that knowledge, skills, and supply chains remain within the community. That is essential because for infrastructure to succeed long-term, local stakeholders must be empowered to own and maintain it, ensuring the economic benefits are shared rather than outsourced. So, for example, as a member of the Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction, or the Global ABC, with our partners UNEP and UN Habitat, we are supporting the decarbonization of the built environment by strengthening capacity in the infrastructure enabling environment. Through the development of climate action roadmaps for the buildings and construction sector, such as those for Bangladesh, Senegal, and Ghana, We help shape how the built environment is planned, delivered, and managed to be more efficient and climate neutral. We also, following the IEA's Global Summit in 2024, we launched the guidelines for developing inclusive energy infrastructure to ensure we create local value. For infrastructure to succeed long-term, local communities need the capacity to operate and maintain it. And our third action is leveraging other forms of finance like blended finance. To ensure affordability, we need to look at all of the different finance options and select the best one. Sometimes this is blended finance, a mix of many different forms. This is essential to de-risk the markets, unlock private capital, and deliver universal access to renewable energy at affordable prices. By using financial mechanisms to bridge the gap between high upfront costs and long-term viability, we ensure that clean energy solutions are accessible to all. So, for example, in Sierra Leone, through the Salone Off-Grid Renewable Energy Acceleration Project, managed by our hosted entity, Sustainable Energy for All, we supported the launch of a 22 million euro investment support window. This mechanism used concessional funding to cover capital costs for green mini-grids. By reducing the initial risk, we lower the tariff for the end user. This allows 25,000 households to access affordable power while providing businesses with a viable operating model. It supports both the private sector and the community. So in conclusion, we need to do more to deliver a people-centered and inclusive transition with universal access to renewable and resilient energy at affordable prices. Ultimately, sustainable infrastructure relies on localization. In 2024, nearly half of UNOP's procurement went to local suppliers, helping to strengthen local economies. So by taking these practical actions, we can build an energy transition that's inclusive and sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. I now come to Dr. Vibha. Dr. Vibha is Director General of the Energy Research Institute in India. And my question is, building integrated photovoltaics, that is BIPV, which report was just launched, they are being recognized as a powerful tool for decentralized solar deployment. Through TERI and Griha, India is pioneering solar-ready, green-rated buildings. What policy and market shifts do you see as the most important to scale BIPV adoption across India's urban and peri-urban landscape and also countries of Global South? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question, and I'll say it was so well presented by you and Mr. Ashish Khanna. What is the importance? Now, let me try to explain where the problem lies. We are talking about that the floor area of built area by 2050 is going to be doubled. The other thing is, and it's in that lighter spirit, that if doctor does a mistake, you are buried in next 4 to 5 hours, but whatever architect constructs, it's going to be there for next 50, 60 years. So therefore, when we are looking at this expansion in the floor area, we really have, it is a challenge. If we don't do things properly, where are we going to meet the demand? And if we do things properly, then it is that you are actually making energy generation possible at the building level itself. Now, why it is so important? We are talking about that the cost of solar had come down considerably, but then storage and transmission is going to be a problem. Let's also look at, as our economic development takes place, the first thing on which we invest is energy. And see your own lives, like we started, especially in the developing world, we started with air coolers, then air conditioners, maybe in one room, and now coming to central air conditioning. We are talking of heat stress, and of course over here it's very visible that as the temperature rises, your productivity that comes down, and therefore you are going to go for human comfort. Now, can we really afford that much of storage, that much of transmission? What is going to be the total expenditure? We are also talking of electric vehicles, where the electricity is going to come from. So if we look at all these things, it is not something we are saying can be done, we should say it should be done. Let's look at our, because you talked about urban and peri-urban, I'll say it is equally important in the rural India. Because otherwise what is happening, whatever they produce today, perishables, they have to sell it today. And if we give them energy, which they can have from their own houses, they will be able to store and they can get into food processing and many other things. The entire ecosystem of villages can be improved. Let's also look at, because of increasing population, we are going vertical. So therefore rooftop is only one. So very good schemes what we are doing today, but in years to come, there is no other way than to go for the entire facade of the building. And that will be according to what kind of energy you require. How much energy do you require? Now, what is required, or the policy changes, the specific questions you asked, it is that it should be integrated in NDCs as well. This is what we can achieve through building design. It should be, when we talk of GREHA, already we are talking in terms of giving certification, how much is the component of renewable energy. So therefore, once we have a solution that it is not how much of solar rooftop have you put in, it is how much of total energy requirement you are meeting. And once you do that, it can be everything. You give incentives like you can have more of floor area, you have to pay less of taxes because your building is not a burden on the urban infrastructure, it is actually adding to energy generation. So we can look into all those models, right from GREHA compliance, that if you cannot be 5-star unless and until you have incorporated this, and giving or making it part of NDCs, and then looking at, because see, one of the main problems which is going to come is capex. So can we look into, I'm not saying free, but it is that those who implement, they actually pay based on the usage. So within few years, they will be able to pay the main cost, the capex, and thereafter it becomes free. So we should develop all those policies and look into it. Thank you. I know we are running short of time and therefore I should also end here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think Manvendra can now quickly summarize and thank everybody formally.
Yes, thanks a lot, sir. Thank you, Samantha, for joining us online, Dr. Dhawan Upadhyay, sir. So I'll just summarize, and all the participants, of course, I'll just summarize by this that Grid Interactive Building looks is a unique collaborative idea between government, industry, and academia. And it is going to be a new frontier for equitable and inclusive growth in Global South. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day.